Oh, it's absolutely going to nuclear. Yeah, I mean, like like there's stories out there lately about how the FLU and the ADL are efficiently screwing people. Hey, everybody! Orange podcast. Bad. What is this episode? I maybe a million. I don't know. It's in the 80s. We haven't hit 100 yet, but we're just gonna throw some things around. We could talk about the SPLU, or we could talk about the Anti Defamation League, the ADL,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
totally racist Anti Defamation League. And we could also one of the things that maybe we could talk about is the Schumer siesta, which is a
Schumer's
meme that has
yes.
taken over, right? With like, and you just take a picture of a politician, Jasmine Crockett or ALC. You put that into your meme generator. It's super easy if you don't know how to do it. Use Grok, and then you say, I want this person in this photo to be wearing a sombrero so I could say how they are celebrating the Schumer siesta. The government's taking a nap. It's night night time.
Absolutely. The Schumer
Eh,
siesta. While the grim reaper of the shutdown, Russ Vogt, sharpens his knives.
Isn't that going to be fun? Like, honestly, isn't that going to be fun to
Yes.
see all of that waste and fraud cut? Everyone's going to go, well, but employers are going to lose their jobs. Welcome to America. Welcome to the private sector. You're not promised a job just because you work for the government.
I've never worked in a job where I was non-essential.
That's saying something too, as a pharmacist.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't even understand the term non-essential. If you're not doing anything that's helpful or productive, why are you there? If you're not necessary for the ongoing function of the organization, why should you be there?
Well, obviously, my answer is going to be you should not be there. You're not needed, and you could look at all the big companies, even the ones you hate, like Amazon, Sam's Club, Costco, and go, well, why did they fire somebody? Because it was necessary to fire this human being because they weren't contributing to the profit. That's the word that everybody hates of the company. And so if you're not contributing to the profit of the country or company, you go. If you're not contributing to the now in government, it works a different way. You're looking at revenue, which is theft, right? We've talked about this through taxation. If you're not contributing to the proper spend of that money, then yeah, bye bye.
You're by definition, you're non-essential. For as much, um, I see tonight as being somewhat relaxed and theoretical as opposed to hot. But I look, I own a small business ever since, and my business was ramping going into COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
then we got shut down, and we're struggling ever since. Something that I talked to you about. I mean, my guest count at my salon is down 200 or 300 people a month. So obviously we've had to raise prices. A lot of the older gals basically weren't getting beauty services anymore, so they just decided they didn't need them anymore because they could save the money. And then the inflation kicked in, and what was their incentive to come in? I mean, they've got combs, they've got hairspray, they've got brushes, they can go to Great Clips, so they don't need they don't need a beauty shop. They just need a haircut. And that, and in mass, that's what they've done. And not that you, and building revenue in an organization is as much art as it is science. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, and the sum of the parts always adds up to the whole. Now, of course, we had a pretty good rebound when everything opened back up, and then Biden gave everyone extra money for some reason that I've never been able to figure out. And we had PPP loans and stuff like that, and so the pressure was off for a little bit. But the grind since that time through his administration, it's like a meat grinder, and you're sitting there chasing things. And I mean, I know my landlord wants to raise revenue. Hopefully, they're not listening. But hey, I'll tell you what, if
Of course.
you guys want to keep me going at the current rate, that'd be great. Hell, if you wanted to cut it, that would be even better. Let's share the sacrifice. I'm a good tenant. I pay. Uh, but at the same time, we've reorganized things and we've got things ready to go. But now it's just a matter of runway, and runway means my wallet, and that's what runway is. And if
So
you said, go ahead.
no, I specifically, like, you just triggered where I want to go. I want to get into this because when you see job numbers come out, when you see economic numbers come out, yeah, we're not feeling like all of us in America. And look, you could blame Trump. I really don't care, but you could also look at what we've been doing for 20 years and go, wait a minute. You guys have been crushing business, not just small business, but especially
All
small
business,
business,
all
all
business.
business, even the big business, because you're like tax the rich, and you're like, well, who's the rich? There's like 900 people that are declared billionaires in this country. That's it. Take all their money, you still can't pay for any of this.
It's not a
And
drop in the
so
bucket.
so now you're taxing it, like everyone's gonna go, it's not, whatever. You're taxing through policy, and it won't be just the business tax. It won't be just it's going to be things like your energy. How much does it cost you to pay electricity? It's going to be things like your lease, because now the property value on the leased property was just reassessed by 20%
Higher.
higher, and now they have to pay a more tax wherever, it doesn't matter what state you live in, and all of a sudden they have to pass that through to the business
Me,
owners.
who then passes it on to his customers and
Yep.
price increases. And the older gals who tend to be more regular are the ones who can least afford it. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So it's what you would call a squeeze. And inflation squeezes everybody. And the Inflation Reduction Act, I I could do a pretty long riff on the Inflation Reduction Act, but just let me point out one particular part. You mentioned energy. In state in states across the United States, there were 10-year contracts given to public utilities for investments in wind and solar, but to get them, you had to agree to shutter your coal plant and to eliminate the production of continuous base electricity, which is why the lights turn on when you flick the switch. So
Hmm.
previously, my highest electric bill during summers, and they get hot here in St. Louis, was 900. Okay, now it's 1300, and it hasn't been under. Well, I just got it down under 991 last month. That was my peak. That was July or late in a hot June. 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm getting peak electricity bills for almost half the year. And then
See,
we're going to go to gas bills. I had a $750 gas bill last winter, and it's got to come from somewhere. And the squeeze is on. That's what we're talking about.
you
I've
know
got
how
to.
Absolutely, and, obviously, it's policy, and a lot of it's state policy that drives this.
Oh
So
yeah,
you could blame I don't care, Autopen, you could blame Trump, but a lot of this is actually state policy, and I want to remind everybody that all politics are local.
right.
And you need to show up in your local elections. For me here in November in North Carolina, I'm going to show up. I'm going to vote for the school board elections. I'm going to vote for the mayor. I'm going to vote, and a lot of people don't do that. But energy policy is a thing that's local and it's also state. And if you don't show up to vote against let's go data centers that draw massive amounts of energy
And they're
and
going to
raise
raise
the
your
prices
prices.
of
That's right.
people. And then they also draw massive amounts of water, which is also going to raise your prices. But you're just it's a November 2025 election. What the fuck should I care? You should care because it affects your payments, like your bill, literally affects your wallet,
Right.
and
And
you need to show up.
I'm not talking about going to the Public Service Commission to argue about a penny or two of rate increase. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the actual representation, the actual legislation, the actual investments, and the actual uh, policy commitment to building your electrical grid, to making
Mhm.
sure you have enough supply without borrowing from other states. And we've come to find out that the blue states in particular have been shortchanging us. The idea, and hey, I'm shouting out to King Edward. The idea that we're having electricity supplied from Canada in
Yep.
northern states, and so we're dependent upon them. And now you're going to slap 100% tariff on them on everything. What do you think's going to happen? We should not be dependent on another nation for our electricity,
No, never,
especially.
never, never should have. Never should have. I don't know where we got there, but hold on. Now you brought up a great new point. We're tariffing that, and everybody's
Yes.
like, "Why the f would Trump want to do that?" And they don't get it in the way that maybe you and I will get it. But why? Oh, the reason the why, right, is obviously make energy here, do mobile nuclear reactors, do even solar. Wind is stupid. Wind is absolutely stupid. But
It should
if
all
you
be
look,
stopped.
so Elon has even open sourced the technology for photovoltaic energy collection and battery packs. Why are people not buying into this? I have no idea. And I'm not some green energy freak. I think John Kerry's a moron that got he made himself a millionaire off of it. I'm saying there
What a
are
grift!
things you can do. There are
What
things
a
you can
what
do.
what a grift!
Could you imagine?
Well,
Could you
and
imagine?
okay, you want to do the big doom scroll? The big doom scroll is the whole idea of going back to British influence in the United States, and you say, well, what does that have to do with John Kerry? Well, John Kerry
Yeah,
wants
he's a
nothing
Tory.
more than to be in the good graces of the French and the EU and the WEF and whatever he's bought and paid for. Anything that comes out of his mouth is not America first and never will be. It
Never
wasn't
has
when he
been.
was in never no never was when he's been doing this trader thing for 50 years, and
50 years.
people are still kind of listening to him. He's a lot more irrelevant now than he was 10 years ago, but he's done enormous damage to the United States, and it's the influence of the European elites who don't want to lose their grip on power, who believe their influence over American money and muscle can keep them relevant. And when it looked like we were headed to economic hard times with deficits, I think their idea was to break us and sub China in for us and live happily ever after with China supplying the manpower and the military might. And that seemed to be working for a little bit. They had nobody would say a bad thing at the WEF about Xi ever. Okay. Now they will, but they wouldn't back then. And I think Xi looked at him and said, "What are you guys smoking? We're communists. I can't do what the US is doing. I don't have that kind of economy." So
Well,
they
no, they get that's it. You nailed something. So the China doesn't have the economic prowess that they
can't do
claim
it.
to have. They can't
They're
do it,
communists. They're
right?
communists.
Well, they're communist with pseudo capitalism. They allow a business, they allow big business, Alibaba, things like that, to exist only so they can tax them to death. Communist, but that's where they generate the revenue. They don't have any revenue. Revenue we get so when it comes, I got to be very clear. When it comes to governments, when they say revenue, it's theft, it's
Right.
tax, right? And so now we get into they cannot fund the things they were doing. But to be clear, what they're trying to do is usurp American power.
Right.
And
Without
Bernie Sanders is like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And
Listen, without
Bernie,
without Larry
what?
without Larry Fink and without our retirement money, they'd be nothing. We could have choked them at any juncture that we wanted to if we had an America First president over the last 30 years. And this president's doing it. It's later than you think, but it's being done.
My issue, so a lot of people in my life, I just somebody didn't text me back. Aunt, we'll just call her Aunt. I sent her a
The,
video of Hillary
the,
Clinton
the new
being
dealer.
totally MAGA and saying we need to deport all criminal illegals
Oh
and
yeah.
defund this until part. But hold on. So when we get to China, right? It's also I can also go the other way and get look Reagan, you fucked up when you were doing this by introducing capitalism into communism. If you would have just let them die, and I'm not talking about people, the government. If you would have let the government die, it would have died.
The Western elites, including the US elites, and I'll blame the British elites and the WEF for their part, but the American elites have had a soft spot for the CCP following World War II. And I never understood that because the CCP were not our allies. The CCP were our
Never.
enemies in the Korean War, in case anybody didn't notice that. And obviously, we didn't have the stomach to finish that and go into China or anything. I mean, that would have been stupid. But we've always given them probably more respect than they deserve because of the number of people that they have. And it does represent a huge block of world population. And our government always values stability. So in the CCP, they saw people who were willing to oppress citizens enough that they'd get compliance. And that
Well,
is a much more
but,
persuasive
but,
thing.
but wait, I think look for all the good stuff Reagan did. I gotta ask, why do you think he made the mistake to capitalize them?
Well, I'm not so certain that it was totally his mistake. He played his role, but follow this. Tiananmen Square happened 4 months before the Berlin Wall.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the end for communism in the world. Everyone saw what it was and they were done with it. The Chinese people were done with it. They put the Statue of Liberty in Tiananmen Square. I mean, you can't be any more clear than that, can you? We want closer relations with America.
Again, but hear me out. Why did Reagan introduce capitalism to them? And I know, the generic answer is Reagan introduced capitalism to rid communism, but all it did was fund their communism.
Well, well, in what, but yet let's separate Reaganism from Bushism. And Bushism is what
Yeah.
Obamaism. It's what they want to bring back. That's what the rhinos want, is Bushism, and it's wretched. Even with what Reagan did, you still had the revolt. You still had Tiananmen Square. You still had the CCP on death's door, and all we needed to do was to not help them. And I don't believe Reagan would have helped them had he still been in office. But remember, this is 89. This is Bush. And very quietly, while the blood was still in the streets, the stains were still on the cobblestones, Scowcroft goes over to Deng Xiaoping and he says, "We got your back. Just relax, relax. We just want access to your slave labor. And then our companies will invest and build your country. Let's just let bygones be bygones."
Nah, yeah,
That's what happened.
like if for those of you who don't understand who those company are, like Adidas and Nike,
Yeah.
those are the companies that we're going to talk or we're talking about right now. And the JC, no, I don't blame it all on Reagan. I'm actually, ironically, a Reagan Republican. But I think there was a couple mistakes he made, and it's totally okay to point out mass amnesty and trying to give capitalism to China, thinking that that would end socialism or communism.
Well, Deng Xiaoping told him it would. I mean, Deng Xiaoping
Sure.
made a good presentation. I mean, he was clearly not Chairman Mao. You know, he wanted to implement state capitalism. And while Reagan went along with that, I don't think, knowing Ronnie as I think I did based on speeches and watching him in action, that he would have agreed to ship the American middle class over to China and give away all of our jobs, because that's really not capitalism at all. That's feudalism.
Mm.
And so we're not exporting capitalism there. We're exporting feudalism, and we're importing unemployment and drug use. And that's all on the current uniparty. But at the same time, I wish I would have seen Reagan in charge during the Tiananmen Square and the Berlin Wall. I think things could have been better, because let's go a little farther for what it's worth, Sean. Okay, this is another one. The American elites, when you talk about the wealth of the current West, it came mostly from the rebuild of Eastern Europe and the economic opportunities in the fall of Sovietism, that Eastern Europe was hungry for jobs and to reestablish their market economies, and everything there was dirt cheap. And you didn't have to be a billionaire or anything like that to get involved and make a really nice living. I mean, look at Sir John Templeton. That's when what his World Fund started to grow, because of the companies that were investing in rebuilding the market economies of the Eastern Bloc, and the wealth flowed so freely that these guys couldn't get over it. And when the Middle East shit started, they started trying to do that in Sadr City in Baghdad. That's why Frank Biden had a fucking real estate contract in Sadr City, in
All
in
right,
in,
all
in,
right,
in Baghdad, for Christ's sake.
all right,
What does he
yeah,
know
no,
about
no, no,
that?
no, no, no. Hold on, like we could totally go down this rabbit hole because it's not a actual rabbit hole; it's fact. Where was the money coming from? Obviously, the West, but where was the money coming from?
The U.S. taxpayer. I mean, the
Uh-huh.
foreign
Yeah,
aid. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
U.S. foreign aid,
yeah,
USAID, all kinds of other.
USAID, and all of these, and all those military bases were supporting economies over there. And I've come to learn that the word appropriation means graft.
Yeah.
When they put together an appropriations bill, or Biden would walk up to the migrant there who just put together an aid package. I'm like,
Oh, we're
Put
gonna.
it
I got a point where I'm gonna go, but we're gonna provide clean water to Africa, and then I go, wait, hold on. Didn't Mr. Beast just run a gazillion dollar contest to get clean water to African nations? And then I'll go even farther. Clean water to African nations will actually make you sick because it doesn't have the bacteria or the
that they need.
biome that your body is used to, and it make you sick, and it might even kill you.
There's another if you think about Western aid and Western aid bureaucracies, started out with noble intentions like it mostly does, and you get the girls on board and they're all about doing good. But then you have these famines in Africa because they can't grow enough food. Well, they could, but they don't because of whatever. And if
You
we're
can't
handing out
hold. I want you to go, but hold on. You cannot. So we learned this from England. We learned this from Rome. We learned this from you cannot America. You cannot what's called nation build. You cannot spread democracy. These people want nothing to do with the West. They don't want to learn. It's not because you're not being generous. They want to herd goats. They want to not have Jeeps from the
Sean,
1950s. They
they want
don't want any of this.
they want jobs.
No, they don't.
Well, their kind of jobs.
Yeah,
Okay.
goat
Yeah,
herder.
right. Now, little story, not let's see, 3-minute diversion. Okay, tops.
Yeah, fine.
Pharmaceutical executive from Bristol Myers Squibb. I don't remember his name. Very devout Christian man.
Probably Timothy. That
Yeah,
would sound normal.
yeah. Anyway, went on a mission trip, and he made a
Yeah.
point. He made a point. This is like 1964, maybe 1965. So this rot's been going on forever. And he was examining all the missions because churches in the United States used to talk about their foreign missions, and you'd have
Hmm.
a church and a congregation in this place, and you baptized this many people, and you did this and you did that. Well, he went over there, but he was actually a free thinker. So he said, "Okay, I've talked to the pastor who's on Western support." He says, "I want to meet with the congregation. I want to meet with the village who's supposed to come here and worship the Savior." And he got his meetings, and they'd look at him and they go, he says, "I want to know why you know." One last thing, he'd break down the pastors and say, "Hey, if the money got cut off and you had to leave, you've got this beautiful building here and all this, what would become of it?" "Oh, there'd be livestock in the sanctuary in 6 months." So that was the question that he wanted an answer to. I'm a sinner saved by grace. I
Yeah.
bring you I bring you the love and grace of Christ Jesus. And I want to know what's standing in the way of you accepting it. And these village leaders, to a man, would look at him and say, "Dude, when they pass that plate, we don't produce anything. So you talk to us about supporting the mission. With what? We don't have jobs. We can't, we don't produce anything that we can measure. If we slaughter our best animal, we can give you a piece of meat. But that's not what you're talking about in the plate. You're talking about economics, and we need revenue producing jobs."
Right. It's so when you look at these third world countries, and they are third world
Oh,
for a reason.
shithole.
They choose to be that way. They don't want to be a part of the modern world. They really don't. They want to go on being whatever goat herders, or crop raisers. Hard to do in some of the African countries, but they do. We're getting into a place like, and again, they probably weren't even originally Muslim. They were just simple people.
Right.
But the Islamic world has taken that over.
Dominated them.
It for whatever it's worth, and said, you have to fight this war against Trump." I know, haha, fight the war against Trump. It sounds the same way as it's our modern day American left wing policies. What we're going to get into that with that is that you can't help them, and that's what I want to be very clear. And I've talked to private military contractors. I've talked to active duty military that have been in these places, and they're like, you cannot bring them into the modern world. They're 400 or 500 years below us in what they do. And
But
you go, oh, no, ALC. They're a human. They should. Okay, I totally agree. They're human, but they're not modern. They don't want anything to do with what we're doing. First, they don't really even care about religion. But if activated, they will totally kill you just to get rid of you.
and they don't. If you want to hand them money that they can get something they want with it, they'll take it.
Yep.
What your the happy ending associated with this model that he designed was, and I want you to listen closely because I realize you'll have a negative reaction at first, but if we listen for content, it'll work for you. He would evaluate different countries, and if he had a government that would stay out of the way of the citizens actually earning a living, okay, very small business loans. And what had to happen was there wasn't a FAFSA to fill out or anything like that. It was just a handshake, but the elders in the little villages had to vouch for the guy that he's a good guy and he'll pay the loan back. And the loan repayment rate was 98%. But keep in mind, Sean, what they never tell you when they ask you for the contribution is that's probably less than 5 countries in all of Africa that would let you do that because they don't want the people to have economic independence. That's the whole reason why they hate Christ. Because if you regard yourself as a saved individual who's entitled to keep what you earn because you were created and you have worth, well, then you're almost ungovernable from the outside. I mean, that's the end result of that belief system. You're going to insist on ordered liberty, not ordered oppression. So it's a big threat. So you have to have an enlightened and confident governing entity, which is like what the British Commonwealth created in their different colonies, where you actually could have an
Mhm.
economy. And so it's exporting that model, but on a micro basis to certain villages where the government wouldn't interfere with it. It was actually very
Well,
successful. But did
well,
it make a ripple on the entire continent? Fuck no, because Africa is a huge place.
Africa's a huge place, but in it, we could look at colonialism, which is so often talked about by people who think they're oppressed. I really don't give a shit, to be clear about that, because their colonialism, even of England, provided great wealth to all of the nations they colonized. Again, still, I can also go, hey, listen, America themselves, and we talk about this often, in 1776, sorry, said, hey, go fuck yourself king, we're not going to pay for your whatever. We're
Wars.
going to pay for ourselves.
Yeah, we're not going to pay for your
And,
wars. That's
and so they
what it always is.
and again they didn't even establish a federal income tax at that point. They used tariffs. Here's the
Yeah, how
fun
about that?
part. They
How
used
about that?
tariffs to fund the army.
Yeah, why not?
Why wouldn't you? It's a sales tax. Isn't it like I don't care what Democrat says to me, it's a tax. Of course, it's a tax. It's a sales tax. And we didn't have a federal income tax until what, 1913?
That same decade where we screwed up everything else. Federal Reserve,
Yeah.
federal income tax, direct election of senators, capping at 435 members of the House of Representatives, women's suffrage, the whole 9 yards.
Why
Disastrous decade.
do you hold on? Do you remember why? Because there's an actual answer here. Why they started the federal income tax?
For World
No,
War
it
One,
had to
wasn't
do with war. It had to do with
it? Yeah,
war.
World War
World
One,
War
right?
Two.
Yeah. Okay.
One. Sorry, one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. And so that's why so I believe it was the 12th or 13th Amendment. 12th. Where that like everybody voted for it, but they're like, fuck yeah, we want more. Like I'm not being facetious here. They're like, yeah, we want to fund it, but the understanding that they put out to the American people was this will be temporary.
You know, Sean, Sean, we really need to do a series also on Edward Bernays. Okay? Edward Bernays was the guy who convinced, who understood the power of propaganda. He was actually a relative of Sigmund Freud,
Mm.
and he was into the human psyche, and he was obviously became a marketing genius because he was using techniques that were last used on us by David Axelrod in 2008 when he put us all in a non-racist trance. But Edward Bernays, that's the fulfillment of Edward Bernays, okay? But uh, yeah, Bernays
Wait,
was a guy.
now I got questions. Since that's how we got the second term of Obama, because the first term of Obama, let's be honest, was Republicans saying, I'm proving I'm not a racist. The second term, what
Well,
was that?
remember, it was David Axelrod and his permission structures. The permission structures were for a white guy who normally would not vote for a black man to prove his virtue in a suburban area by pulling the lever for the black candidate so he could feel good about himself. The entire nation was in that trance. And that's why Obama was the Messiah. And he's obviously lost his luster now, but to come to grips with what happened to us, it's the same as the vaccine, it's the same as COVID. We don't do post-mortem introspection as well as we should, or else we could learn something.
We absolutely could learn something.
Well, I mean, Edward Bernays, and listen, this could be a fascinating series if you want, but Edward Bernays was the guy who convinced us that breakfast was the most important meal.
Well,
It's
no,
not.
no, all right, hold on, time out. To be clear, and I've talked to other podcasting friends. I want to do more of this stuff and less of just, hey, it's the daily drive.
Right.
And we're
Well,
gonna talk about
you can get that anywhere. Yeah,
any
yeah.
YouTuber, anybody can just give you the daily drive. I want to get into this stuff. This one isn't even daily drive stuff. Obviously, we're having a good conversation, but that's where I want to go with this. I'd have to look, but we have live listeners, and this is where we're going to go with Orange Podcast Bad, and we're going to literally break down all kinds of things like Fauci. And you're gonna
Yes,
go, ah!
it's the
And
same
I'm
thing.
gonna go, no, 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 hear me out, right? No, the things that we're gonna start from Fauci, from a level of 1980s HIV and AIDS pandemic and what he did. We're going to bring you literal truths in articles that have happened that you may not remember, but you were probably there. I mean, you were probably alive in the '80s, so we don't have a lot of young viewers. I'm well aware of our viewership because I get the analytics. But we're gonna bring that to you, and we're gonna present stuff to you in a point of view where, like, I am the science is not a place you should ever put in your head.
No, no. When you hear someone say that, they mean I am the scientism. In other words, you need to stop thinking because I'm going to dictate, like a Nazi doctor. And I don't use the word Nazi a lot, but that's exactly what they did.
Well, isn't that, what's funny is because that's correct, but isn't it what's funny is that they're using that word against the people who want to do science?
Yes. And remember, the irony here is that the Germans were the people that basically crafted and invented the scientific method. And to
Mhm.
have it be wholesale rejected by the Germans and then the progeny of the Germans, because I've said this before, I'll probably say it 100 more times on the show. We didn't only get the Nazi rocket scientists.
Mhm.
No, after that press conference with Borla and Trump, and now are you kidding me? We're going to all of a sudden figure out that all of our vaccines are poison. And then Borla's going to say, well, we've got the solution. We've got the mRNA. We don't have to use all that stuff. You
So,
know they're going to, Sean, you know they're going to try that.
hold on. We're not even gonna we're gonna get into all of that in a series. But I want to point this out. A year ago, Elon Musk said mRNA vaccines will be the future, but it's not here yet.
No,
Stop taking them.
right.
I mean, do you disagree with Elon? And you're totally okay to disagree with Elon.
I don't disagree with him on that at all. I the last time I had a big disagreement with him was that there was a constituency in the United States to bring in Indians at 40 cents on the dollar and take all of our tech jobs.
Sure,
Yeah,
H-1B visa.
I disagree with him fundamentally on that.
Yeah,
But
for sure,
Elon's a smart
H-1B
guy.
visas.
And he is a smart guy. I mean, there's no question he's brilliant. Okay. But that's his rice bowl. And
Yeah,
whenever people say, yeah,
I
whenever
get,
people start talking
but
about
I don't know. I don't know if everyone heard us. He said so. Elon said H-1B, or no. I'm talking about visas. He said mRNA will be the future of curing cancer. That's what he said. He goes, but it's not even close to being ready.
oh no, I mean you saw what it did. The mRNA
It
COVID
caused
vaccine
cancer.
hurt
It
more
caused
people than it
cancer.
yeah, it hurt more
Yeah.
people than it helped. It killed more people than it cured. And I'll stand by that. It's my opinion, but in the same way that Robert Kennedy said, the polio vaccine has never been adequately studied, and it's very likely that that vaccine gave more kids cancer and killed them than would have died of polio if they just rolled the dice.
I can't wait for Saturday, but I gotta get your
Oh,
opinion.
all right.
Hold on. I gotta get your opinion. So vaccines. So we've already talked about this, but I want to do it again. We used to do measles parties. We used to do
Chickenpox
chickenpox
parties.
parties.
Of course.
Right? It literally. I had no idea why my mom was sending me over to the Thomas's house for a sleepover, and they're like, "We're actually hoping you'll get chickenpox."
Sick. Sick. Yeah.
right? And I didn't. It took 5 more years for me to finally get chickenpox. But then my dad was like, "Well, I can't be around you." He's in his mid 30s at this point, and he's like, "I can't be around you because it might kill me." And I was like, I didn't think any. I'm a kid, right? 14, 15-year-old. I'm 15. I remember because I was in high school. Whatever. It passed. I went and literally marched with chickenpox in the Georgia Bowl parade, being in the drum line, just blah, blah, da, 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 da,
with chickenpox
and with chickenpox. And I was on the bus, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a shit. They
because they'd
could
all had it.
see the pox. Ah, my
Sh-
face.
Sean, we used to be before we rejected God and became so afraid of dying. We used to understand the immune system better. The fact is that children, I'm not going to bring Edward Soon-Chong into this, okay? But the fact is, children's immunity is so resilient and so fabulous that you want to introduce everything to a kid's immune system that you can, because the kid will just shrug it off. In fact, the thing that blew the whistle completely on the COVID fraud, which is what I call it, is that kids experience COVID as a cold. It didn't get in their
Yeah.
lungs. They didn't need to be on ventilators. It didn't do any of that to them. And now they're immune from it for the rest of their life because it's called herd immunity. We should have wanted every kid to get it rather
Why?
than closing the damn school.
Obviously, we're gonna do a whole series on this, but since we're just shooting the shit tonight, why would Doctor I am the Science not want herd immunity? No,
Money.
no, no. Like, don't go way deep because we're gonna do a whole series on this. But that's where everybody looks at and goes, "Well, why did Doctor Death?" I don't call him Doctor Death. I call him Doctor I am the Science.
Who? Yeah, yeah, that guy. Yeah. I call him
Yeah,
Mangala. All right, yeah. Fact is,
I
the fact
we're
is
told.
that when I'm watching that press conference with Borla, I'm thinking, you people regard all of us as guinea pigs. I mean,
Did he?
that's really
Wait. Did he really not give it like so? Like, and I'm well aware because I have a lot of pharmacist friends, not just you. I have a lot of
I'm sorry.
medical friends that
I'm
are
sorry.
RN.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Fuck you guys," and everyone's like, "No, he's just." I was like, whoa. Everybody I'm talking to that's in the medical profession says Dr. Fauci is a complete douchebag.
Total.
We'll totally get. I'm gonna start from AIDS when we do the show, but they're like I'm forced. Here's the problem: look, I'm forced to do this, or I lose my job.
Yeah. Yeah. When I heard about the concept of a vaccine mandate, I was horrified. I mean, you're going to basically give a flu shot to all of these people, or you're going to kick them out of work? Sean, I'm going to send you a graph about what happened to
Yep.
the millennials. What happened to the millennials after that vaccine mandate? You see how many of them died. I mean, young working people that had bright futures dead, ripped out of their families, destroyed by this monster. And how he even sleeps at night, I have no idea.
All right. So, like I said, I believe nobody sees this yet. I believe for the 20th century, he's going to go down in history as the most evil person that's ever lived. And he will be as evil as, now hold on, as in the 19th century as Hitler for totally different reasons. but he's going to be remembered as that.
Well, he's an unhuman. I mean, the fact is he doesn't give two shits about anybody but himself. Really. He can't. You can't behave that way and give a damn about anybody. You really
So,
can't.
well, all right. Let me ask you, pharmacist, if you were trying to, I'm sure my aunt's now texting me about something profound about the Schumer
Is
shutdown.
she watching? Is she
Claiming,
watching?
claiming it's Trump. No, no, she's actually not.
We should get
I
her
wish
on.
she would. I wish she would. I actually plan on trying to bring her on, but
I would love to talk to her.
like the
Yeah.
listen, she in her 80s, so but she's totally convinced by the thing on the wall. Trump's bad. And so but here's what I will say, she's willing to banter back and forth with me, which is really cool. Because she's at least like she's like Charlie Kirk's a racist and a homophobe and a transphobe. And I go, well, here's the video. Okay. Like she's at least willing to watch that video. And then she says to me, well, I want you to watch Rachel Maddow. We all know it's as I will totally do that to have a conversation with you. The point is what that's what Charlie Kirk was doing was I want you all to have a conversation. I'm not mad at her. I just know that she's totally convinced by her TV and watching cable news that she thinks all of us are just retarded people that live in hills that never went to college and we're sharpening our sticks, like Nancy Pelosi said, to calm down and poke you. I get that, but again, I want to be very clear. I'm glad she's willing to at least have the conversation.
To
And so
engage.
she sends me shit. I send her back video clips of Hillary Clinton say, we must deport all criminal, illegal aliens.
You should send her the Chuck Schumer tape from 30 years ago where you're
Oh,
saying about it. Yeah.
I have it. I actually have it. I just haven't
Uh,
got around to sending it yet.
uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so she wants me to watch Rachel Maddow.
you know, you're a better man than I. I'm sorry. Like I said, Charlie
Well,
was, I told, when I thought he was too nice, it's really foolishness is just very difficult for me. I used to argue with my stepmother. She was a FDR New Dealer, died at 100, and it's those damn Republicans. And I go, they just want to make money. And I go, yeah, I said, those greedy
why,
Republicans. Yeah.
why New Deal? Why New Deal? Why was she invested in the New Deal?
Well, that's what she knew. I mean, she was born in 1920 or 1919, and so her formative political experience was the Great Depression. And
Sure. All right.
in the same way that Franklin Roosevelt gave the young people of the 30s and 40s hope, Donald Trump is giving the young people of the 20s and 30s hope this century. He is their FDR, and that's the trap that he sprung on the Democrats.
Wait, no, wait, you go farther because I gotta be clear on this. Trump is literally going to be the most successful Democrat president
Yes.
ever because he's going to do all the things that I could pull up clips, it doesn't matter, by Hillary or by Bill or by like Obama even, about all the things that they refused to fix, but they
Right.
said that's what they're going to fix. Donald Trump is going to be the most historic Democrat president ever. And you go, well, but he's a Republican, he's MAGA. No, you missed the whole point. He
He
was going
listens
to
he
do
listens
all of
he
that.
listens to voters. He listens to voters,
Mhm.
and he doesn't know better. And, so I'm even, and by the way, if our young lady joins us for Dr. Science,
Yeah.
she's very upset. I mean, very upset about the press conference with Borla. It doesn't upset me. I know what they are. It's
Right.
it's great that it's great that people can save some money. I mean, that's a step in the right direction rather than forcing the insurance company to pay all this crazy money to those guys. Oh, and he let them out of some tariffs. Well, they were going to get out of them anyway. I mean, the point is he's moving the ball. He's moving the ball, and
Right.
he's constant on all fronts all the time. But when I said this, I wanted to draw a bright line for you, Sean.
Yeah.
You're listening to talk radio in 1998, and you're
Man,
hearing,
I miss that guy.
yeah, and you're hearing memes about Mastriani. How I know it's time to run for reelection. Okay, and what you would see if he was on the air today was Hakeem Jeffries in a sombrero with a Mexican mustache. I mean, Trump is using Rush Limbaugh tactics in the
Yes.
White House.
Rush, and you're right. Rush would, if he was still alive, would be doing the exact same thing today in
Yes.
2025.
In fact, he
Absolutely.
had lost.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
hilarious. I think
it's
it's
great.
absolutely hilarious. I don't
And
I
to
don't
see,
really care that they're pissed off that he's doing it because you got Governor Gap Newsom trying to create memes. Well, they're not good memes, but every once in a while, Gavin Newsom's team drops a good meme. I'll even like it. I'm like, that's fucking funny,
yeah,
right?
no, no,
Like,
he's,
I don't care.
he's
It's a fucking funny meme that you got the Speaker of the House dressed up as a minion. That's funny. I don't give a shit.
and his outrage reminded me of this. Bob Dole talking about Monica Lewinsky. Where's the outrage? Bob Dole, Bob Dole. He sounds just like Hakeem Jeffries right now. This is a racist meme. Why isn't everybody outraged? You've totally disarmed him once they personalize it, and, and
Wait,
you're
well,
just, of
but who's the real racist? Because it's the white
course,
men that aren't able to get jobs. Who's the
of
racist?
course, of course. And you heard Vance's perfect retort. Remember, I told you King Solomon. Hey, we'll stop the sombrero shit as soon as you open the government.
That dude,
God,
listen, that he nailed it, and it was really cool to see Vance come up and take the podium at the press conference. It really was.
yes, yes,
You just watch the stuff, and dude, this guy is even better than Trump.
yes, he is.
And everyone's
Yes,
gonna go, wait, what? What? Nah, screw you. This guy is much better than Trump, and he's gonna do it. And what I want to hold on, I want to get to something.
all
He
right.
is not as he's way better. He is not like a lot of people wanted Ron DeSantis. And
No,
I say Ron DeSantis on policy is perfect. Ron
except for
DeSantis
energy.
on Ron DeSantis on personality is terrible.
No,
Nobody likes him, even his wife.
his
And
wife
you go,
hates him.
what? Well, his wife hates him because his wife wanted him to run against Trump. Like
Oh,
so,
she's
JD,
she's a
like
piece
a
of
lot
work.
of people are like, it's gonna be it 20 or 48. It's gonna be. It's absolutely gonna be, Marco Rubio, or it's gonna be, these things. No, no, no. It's gonna be JD. And here's the other issue: is that if they all run against JD, they're gonna
He'll,
get the
he'll kill
they're
them.
gonna get the DeSantis treatment, and never have a chance
Of
to
making it
run
again.
for anything ever again.
Yeah. He should just be in by acclamation. They absolutely shouldn't even test him because he doesn't need to be tested. He absolutely, with what he does to Margaret Carlson, with what he does to Nora O'Donnell, with what he does to the crypt keeper Martha Raddatz, those people, he vivisects them. I mean, he destroys. I mean, he was even kind to Tim Walz, where he had an opportunity to really be mean, and he showed the right touch because women hate mean conservatives. So just let Walz stumble around the stage and let him make a fool out of himself, and just take the victory. Don't drive the knife in. But if you look back at Judeo-Christian history, and I do believe they're linked. Obviously, there's some Jews that don't, but that's neither here nor there. King David was the warrior. No, we obviously know who King David is, all right? But he was followed by King Solomon the Wise, who ruled the golden age of Israel. I mean, the only mistake he made 750 times because he had 750 wives. That was poor judgment. But the rest of the time, he was right on it.
I mean, Pornhub would be super excited to have a video that.
I got to tell you, after the gals get a look at Vance in action in the spotlight,
It is the exact opposite of Solomon, right? The guy that didn't have sex with 750 women,
right?
Right?
But they'd all give it up for him because he's blue eyes. He's so beautiful. I mean, they after the debate, that was all they could talk about was his eyes.
You know what I love about Vance, honestly, is the fact that, like, even I don't care about the Newsom people, but the Newsom memes about Vance, he just laughs at them and reposts them.
Right.
He's like, fuck yeah, this shit's hilarious.
That's the strategy. That's what Jeffrey should have done, was throw Vance up there in a sombrero with him, or something like that. Just lean into it, downplay it, and it goes away. If you show outrage like, where's Jeffrey? No, yeah, he got the full Monica. I mean, nobody's gonna give a shit.
Nobody does give a shit. Let it be the Schumer siesta. Siesta, taking a nap.
It's the Schumer siesta.
All right, man, it's been an hour. We gotta close it out.
One last thing. I hear all the
Democrats. Go ahead.
I hear all the Democrats talking about how the attitude